This is the second lecture about relationships. As I said, the lectures are not going to be connected to each other, they're independent. And also, if you want to have any questions or any comments, because sometimes, when it's classes about relationships, it's sensitive to talk in public. So if you want, you could email to me comments or questions at rdz@torahandweb.com. Right, Torah and Web. All these classes are going to be on they are putting it on our website, Torah and Web. So if you email to me rdz@torah-and-web, questions, comments, you don't have to identify yourself, or you could fax it to me 310-652-6979, or you could call me if you're more courageous. Okay, so what's that? 310-652-6979.
What's your telephone number?
Email rdz@torahandweb.com. That's right. Excuse me? No dots. rdz at Zargari. No, it's RD Zargari. It's RD Zargari. I'm sorry. RD Zargari at torahandweb.com.
RD Zargari.
Right. Okay, so that, as far as that is concerned, we had one session since I came back from the East Coast, right?
Yes.
So I told you about Yosef HaTzadik, right?
You told us about appreciation.
Appreciation.
No, I didn't tell you the joke about Yosef HaTzadik.
No.
How could it be?
We don't know which
Next week it's going to be your turn. I said, no. You see, when I was on the East Coast, I was staying by a good friend of a mutual friend. Back, Mr. Saur's friend also. Said Golders, he always has good ones. So he was telling me, the Torah tells us that when Yosef had a dream, who was bowing down, he saw the sun and the moon and 11 stars, bowing down to him. One sibling is missing. Himself? He's not going to bow down to himself. Who is missing?
The father?
He saw the sun and the moon, which it's talking about his parents, sun and the moon, and 11 stars bowing down to him.
His wife, his sister.
His sister. Who was his sister? Dina, his sister was missing. What's the message? Even in your dreams, your mother-in-law is not going to bow down to you. Because Dina was his mother-in-law, you know that? Dina was his mother-in-law. I like that.
Oh,
even in your dreams. Okay, next week it's going to be your turn. Okay? Fine. So, on a more serious note, we were talking with relationships, and at least tonight's session, I want to just follow up on what we discussed last week. That you see, we need a format when we're talking about relationships. And when we talk about relationships, right, we are talking about any kind of relationships, but the main focus is going to be the marriage. Because, second to relationship that we have with Hashem, which is the longest and the most meaningful relationships. We know the Arizal says, when it says the famous pasuk of the Torah that defines relationships, Arizal says that ultimately this re'acha that the pasuk is talking about is your spouse. Right? So the Haftar HaKamocha, they translate Hamnoatra, whatever, but ultimately it says the thing is really the relationship that we create in a marriage. That's the ultimate one. But we saw that HaKadosh Baruch Hashem gives us a format for relationships, and this format is the relationship we have with Hashem. We saw the interrelationship. We see that, in the Torah, for instance, the Torah first says, Ve'ahavta l'recha kamocha, then it says, Ve'ahavta Hashem Elokecha. Right? When we're talking about these two ahavas, love, so to speak, the sequence in the Torah, first it says, Ve'ahavta l're'acha kamocha, that we said Arizal means through in marriage, your spouse, Then it says, "V'ahavta et Hashem Elokecha." Then it talks about love of Hashem. And we saw in different ways that these two areas are related to each other. And as I said last week, we are going to use, at least tonight's lecture, the teachings of Rabbi Moshe Cordovero in his book Tomer Dvorah, the Palm Tree of Dvorah, which I highly, highly recommend, also translated into English. It's a Feldheim book. So in that book, as we said last week, which we said that Moshe Cordovero was a big Makubal, it was like a Rebbe to Arizal. So he said that aside from the fact that the person's his body is resembles Hashem Chas v'chalek, God forbid, doesn't have any body or anything, but then it has to do with sfirot, like in the way we spoke about, heart, brain. So he said, aside from that, also a person is supposed to make himself like Hashem. In other words, to emulate Hashem's characteristics. There's a pasuk in the Torah, it says that you should keep all the mitzvot of Hashem, and then it says, "V'halachta bidrachav." You should walk in His pathways, so to speak. So the Gemara asks, are the ways of Hashem anything other than keeping His Torah and mitzvot? And the Gemara answers that what the pasuk means is that Hashem says, you need, when it says that that we have to "V'halachta bidrachav," to walk in the pathways of Hashem, it means mahu afata. In other words, you should find out what qualities, what characteristics, what midot Hashem has. You need to emulate those characteristics that Hashem has in your life, right? And we said through that to come to Dvekut, that we said this term of Dvekut, it's only used in regard to our relationship to Hashem and also to our spouse. These are the only two times in the Torah that Dvekut is mentioned. It says, Rabbi David's famous pasuk va'atem. Rabbi David, if you always when he speaks, the last pasuk va'atem advekim ba'Hashem Elokechem chayim kulechem hayom. He talks about to be davek ba'Hashem, and also in the Torah it says al ken ya'azov ishto v'yitmo v'davak be'ishto. The vekut, it's only used in these two relationships. So we spoke about last week. We spoke about hakarat hatov. Remember, I think this is the last thing that you mentioned, recapping, right? That, HaKadosh Baruch Hu has hakarat hatov, he has that sense of appreciation, and you said that's why Mashiach comes from root, so we need to have that sense of appreciation. And tonight we'll follow with what Rabbi Moshe Cordovero in Tomer Dvorah says, and Rabbi Moshe Cordovero makes his model, he brings a few psukim in Micha, a pasuk that we said it's mentioned. We also said in Tashlich, Mi el kamocha noseh avon v'over al pesha l'shet nachalato. Right. So we are going to take this pasuk and with Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, analyzing what attributes of Hashem the Navi, the prophet, is enumerating, and what does it teach us? Right. We'll see Hashem has this characteristic, and the bad news is that we are expected to follow, right, the pattern of the Khayri Mutshakir, thank you very much. Thank you. So, fine. So the first one is Mi El Kamocha. So, Mi El Kamocha and also Noseh Avon Over Al Pesha, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero tells us, it teaches us something very, very fundamental about relationships. I'm not going to go back on this, we're going to just discuss it tonight, but this is really a motto for life, that we need to really meditate on it, and really to internalize it and put it to practice. And Mi El Kamocha, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, this characteristic of Hashem teaches us, Hashem is Ne'elav. Ne'elav means, He has unbelievable compassion and tolerance. Compassion and tolerance. I always say tolerance, it's not just the name of a museum on Pico. It's something that really needs to be incorporated in our psyche, in our essence and being. And just to see, I use this a lot. I had not too long ago, a guy came to me, was complaining on and on about his wife. So first I told him, look, I don't speak. If you want to really, first of all, I'm not a therapist, whatever this and that, all the right disclaimers. But then I told him, look, if you want something meaningful, both of she also has to come. Right? I have to hear her side. And then I told him, look, even let's say all what you say is true. Right? Just I told him, look, and this guy was a religious person. I told him, look, how much shortcomings we have towards Hashem. Right? And still, Hashem has so much compassion. Like, we have constantly, right and left, we disobey Hashem, and we don't live up to His standards. But Hashem has so much tolerance. He keeps giving us. So we are supposed to emulate Hashem. So he didn't have anything to answer to that, because this is really what Moshe Cordovero says. It's a powerful, powerful statement. He says, look, when we say Mi El Kabach, who is like you, Hashem? What does it mean? It means Kabbalistically that Hashem is Sovel Elbon. Hashem has this unbelievable, godly compassion and tolerance. That's what? Ma shelo yechilehu ra'ayon, something that we cannot contain. Harei ein davar niskad, that we know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu ein nisar ma'ashkachato b'li safek. Hashem knows everything. There is nothing that we say, do, or think that Hashem, Hashem is unaware of. There is total hashkacha pratit. V'od en rega shelo yeh adam nizon mitkayem mikoach, right? But at the same time, while we are being so bad and so insufficient, etc., but there is not 1 second of our life that Hashem does not continue to provide us, to give us life, to give us sustenance, on and on and on. והרי תמצא שמעולם לא חטא אדם נגדו, שלא יהיו באותו הרגע ממש שופע עליו שפע קיומו. Right, like in the biggest heretics, the biggest, Rishaim, wicked people that you could imagine, while they were busy being heretics and disobeying Hashem, and at the HaKadosh Baruch Hu, at the same time, while they are engaged in their wickedness, Hashem continues to give them life. Right? Lo mena'o mimeno klal. Hashem does not hold back the influences and the bracha and the blessings. He gives them life while the person is cursing Hashem even. This person is cursing Hashem, but Hashem is giving him life. He is giving him, the neshama still is in this person. He could move, he could talk, he could think. It all comes from Hashem. This guy is being so, right, so this, it doesn't have any hakarat hatov, no appreciation, but at the same time, this is when we say, Mi el kamocha means that there is, how much tolerance he has. And it's not that Hashem can't do anything to the person. Hashem, at any moment, could just strike this person, just kill him on the spot. Or there is an incident in Navi. If you want to look it up, it's in Melachim Aleph Yud Gimel. Right over there, Hashem sends a Navi to Yerovam ben Nevat. Yerovam ben Nevat is a wicked king, right? That he brought he put idols all over. He put the golden calves in Israel, all over, and you see that so the Navi, Hashem sends the Navi to go to warn him that he should do tshuva, etc. And the guy and Yerovam ben Nevat is doing kfira and what on and on and on. But it says ve'im kol zeh, right? Shahakoach biyado. Right, so Hashem could have just struck him down, but what does Hashem do? Right, lo mipnei zeh mana tuvo min ha'adam v'lo saval elbon. Hashem continues to give him life, but only when this person, when Yerovam ben Nevat picked up his hand, he wanted to hit the Navi. So then Hashem does a miracle, and his hand just gets dried up, yavash. It says by Yerovam, Right? Liyabesh yadav v'raglav. Liyabesh, he dried up. He couldn't move. Yerovam ben Nevat, that he had picked up his hand and he couldn't move it. Couldn't move it. So, who did that? Hashem. Kain shasal Yerovam, and then afterwards, when the Navi prayed to Hashem, Hashem let go. But you see, Hashem could and would, at any given moment, he could stop these heretics, but Hashem doesn't. Constantly, you have people going around being mechalel shem shamayim, right? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu continues to provide. Hashem gives them life, they breathe, their heart beats, on and on. So that's why HaKadosh Baruch Hu is called Melech Aluv. That's all beautiful, but the painful aspect of this is Harizon Midah shetzarich ha'adam lehitnaheg ba. As we said, we are supposed to emulate Hashem, right? So if HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we see how much tolerance and compassion Hashem has. We need to start to learn this from Hashem and to emulate and in the relationships that we create. This is something very, very basic to bear in mind. זו מידה שצריך האדם להתנהג ברצוני, הסבלנות, tolerance. וכן היותו נעלב אפילו למדרגה זו, ואפילו כל זה לא יאסוף טובתו מן המקבל, and you continue to give. I mean, you see, in a married, in any relationship, this is not easy. Also in marriage, it takes two people to tango. If you're in a relationship that you're just giving and the other side is only taking, how long could you go on with this? But it's good to bear in mind what HaKadosh Baruch Hu, how Hashem is acting with us, and this is something that that we are expected to emulate and to practice. Savlanut, having patience, having tolerance, and always to remember. Look, if we, and you see, if we show tolerance in relationships, Hashem is going to give. What He does with us. It's beyond imagination. The Gemara tells us in Masechet Rosh Hashanah that one of the Chachamim was sick. He was dying. And they came to visit him, and I think it was maybe Rav Papa came, I think Rosh Hashanah Yud Zayin Amud Aleph, if I'm not mistaken. So one of the Chachamim, I think it was Rav Papa, came to visit him, and he told his relatives, contact Chevra Kadisha, that's it, he's finished. Right? He's gone. They should just do the preparations for burial and stuff. But then, this person miraculously recovered. He was, and then Rav Papa was embarrassed to show himself to him because he had what he had said to his relatives. So he saw him somewhere and he said, "Look, don't be embarrassed. You were right." He tells him, "You were right. When you came to visit me, I was a goner. Really, my neshama already was in Shamayim, right?" And he told him, the very last minute before my neshama was to be taken forever, Hashem appeared personally, so to speak, in the heavenly court, and he told them, because this person has, has, he has tolerance towards other people, give him another chance, right? I mean, mind you, this person had probably, who knows, hundreds, thousands of students, and he was teaching Torah and Gemilut Chasadim and Tzedakah, you name it. But ultimately, what really gave him a second chance on life was, the Gemara tells us, because he was a vatran. The vater, he would let go. Right? He was not makpid, people would wrong him, and he had this ability of being the vater. So HaKadosh Baruch Hu says, I'm Hashem Tzilecha. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is like our tzel. The way we act, he reacts with us accordingly. So Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, "Zo midah shetzarich adam leitnaheg ba." Savlanut, tolerance. Right? It's tolerance in our relationships with friends. It's tolerance in family setting. It's tolerance with kids. Right? That's the same. It's very, very important. when it comes to education, when it comes to raising children, or education altogether. Tolerance, you can, it's Maharal says, he says, he says the most important thing, especially dealing with teenagers, is to have patience. You have to have patience. A lot of times, when it comes to all kinds of issues, whether it's frumkeit, observance, or other things, right? It's we need always to remember this image of Hashem, right? How much patience and tolerance Hashem has with us, right? We need to emulate that in the relationships that we create. And Ramchal continues also on Nosei Avon would be the same, in the same realm. That again, it teaches us that patience and tolerance. He says, "Mizeh ilmod ha'adam kama tzarich sheyeh savlan lisbol avel chavero v'ra'otav she'era ad shiur kazeh." Right? That we have, even if people wrong us, right? It doesn't. We shouldn't extend the other cheek, the Christian teachings, etc. But at the same time, having tolerance. A lot of things in Hebrew, they say, "Sechel yaseh hazman." A lot of things that sechel, brain and intellect doesn't do, just passing time would. So Ramchal says, "Mizeh yilmod ha'adam kama tzarich sheyeh savlan." Savlan, to have that the tolerance, and also when it says "v'over al pesha," to be forgiving, right? So kidmut zeh tzarich liot ha'adam shelo yomar, right? V'chi ani metaken ma sheploni chata, right? Because it says this over al pesha, being forgiving, as we said, right? This could be the biggest merit that Hashem is gonna compensate us for having those kind of characteristics. And I know personally of so many relationships that really it's unbelievable when you see that one of the spouses, right, is in kind of a situation that it's really intolerable, I would say, But you see, they just when they live these mi'el kamocha nosei avon v'over al pesha, you see how Hashem really compensates them, and you see they are beautiful, beautiful children. Right? I've seen that, Baruch Hashem, many times. Families that I knew from very, very close. That I spoke about a little bit last week. That this besuzu besaz in Persian, now it's a dirty word. But there is a lot of room for tolerance, and people, we have, I think, at least in our community, we have gone from one extreme to another extreme, right? And as we said, God forbid, divorce is also a mitzvah of the Torah, but this is really reserved for very, very
Last resort.
Exactly, the very, very last results that later on we'll talk about it. So then Rabbi Moshe Cordovero tells us about another important characteristics of Hashem that we need to emulate in relationships. And this is when we say ki chafetz chesed. Ki chafetz chesed, that Hashem looks for kindness, I guess, for chesed. And let me just read it inside how beautifully, right, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero brings it in his Sefer. He says, there is a passage in Navi Yecheskel that it's talking about the time that the Jewish nation were involved in Avodah Zarah, right, worshiping idols, everything. It was before destruction that Hashem was, God forbid, was thinking to eradicate the Jewish nation altogether. To that extent, this was really one of the lowest points in Jewish history. And the Navi tells us it was talking about the Bizman HaChurban, but it was about when the Beit HaMikdash was, the first Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. And then it says, this is the pasuk in Navi. It says, "Bo el beinot lagalgal," And then it says, "Benot lagalgal mitachat lakruvim me'esh hamizbeach." It says, like, that Hashem was showing Yechezkel in a certain vision, in prophecy, that how bad and how far the Jews had gone. And it says, "V'haya hadin mitchazek," and the midah of judgment had become so strong that Hashem wanted, God forbid, to eradicate the Jewish nation altogether. "V'haya midin mit'at shebikesh lechalot et hakol." That Hashem wanted to eradicate everything, the Jewish nation. And then, "Mipnei shenitchayvu klaya," uchtiv, it says, "Vayera lakruvim tavnit yad adam tachat kanfehem." All of a sudden, Yechezkel sees a vision that he sees these malachim, these angels, and he sees a human hand amongst these wings of the malachim. So what is this hand doing there? So HaKadosh Baruch Hu told Gabriel, right? Hashem said, look, show Yechezkel the prophet that even though the Jews are so bad, they're worshipping idols and they're doing this and this and that, he said, this hand that you see, Tavnit yad adam tachat kanfehem, he told him, Hem gomlim chasadim elu im elu. Ve'af im hem chayovim nitzolu vayem l'sherit. Hashem says, because you're gomle chasadim, even though you're worshipping idols, etc., etc., but because they're giving to each other, they have gemilut chasadim. So because of that, what does Hashem do? Hashem just, he dwells on that one positive thing. Everything else was negative. Everything else, like they were worshipping idols, they were murdering, who knows? But this yad, this hand, what does it show? Hashem says, because I choose to dwell on the positive because of this yad, this giving hand, and because of that I let go. So you see, we could understand this on two levels. One is the importance of Gemilut Chasadim, obviously, of being a giver. My Rabbi Sachar, so friend, says he thinks that one of the reasons that America prospers, not like before anymore, but in the Jewish community, in spite of all the negativity that there is here, it's because of this being givers, right? You have American Jews. The majority are Reform, but still Hashem gives us so much, gives us all these blessings and shefites because no matter how far they go, but they're givers. Being giver, Rabbi Sachar says once I think there was, I don't know, what was it? Some Christian cause that they wanted to raise funds. And they, what they did was they came out with I don't know how many hundreds after campaigning all over, etc. They raised maybe a few $100,000. And you see, when it comes to UJA or any Jewish cause, they raise millions and millions and millions easily without all that fanfare, right? You see this quality of being and Hashem lets go because of that, right? Also, we see by Pesel Micha, right? Micha, when Moshe Rabbeinu in Mitzrayim, these are the parashah of these weeks. Moshe Rabbeinu was when he saw what's happening to the Jewish kids, how they are burying, alive Jewish babies in Mitzrayim. So he blew his fuses, and he came to Hashem and he says, Hashem, how could you allow such a thing? Hashem says, look, I'm going to avenge every drop of Jewish blood, etc. But you should know, you don't see the whole picture. If you don't agree, go and save one of these kids. So Moshe Rabbeinu went and he saved one of these babies, and he took care of him, etc. And this baby that Moshe Rabbeinu saved, later on, it became Micha, and Micha was a priest of Avodah Zarah. For he was idols and psalim all over Israel. This Micha, to the extent that when they're crossing Yam Suf, right, by splitting of the sea, this Micha was carrying Pesel with him. He carried with him, and the Malachim, the angels, wanted to drown him, to kill him. Hashem says, no, well, let him be. Later on, they enter Eretz Israel. And this Micha, with his chutzpah, he goes, here's the Bet HaMikdash, he goes, right, cross the, mamash next to Bet HaMikdash, the temple, he builds a temple for Avodah Zarah, for idols. Right? So to the extent that, the Gemara tells us in Sanhedrin that, when they would bring the sacrifices, the smoke from the sacrifices would mingle with what he would do for his idols. The Malachim couldn't take it anymore. This is Chilul Shem Shamayim. They wanted to destroy him. Hashem says, let him be. They ask him, why? Hashem says, because Pito Mitsuya Lovre Darachim. Because he takes care of the homeless. And this Micha is such a, Hashem says, let him be. Because he's such a giving person. He takes care of the homeless. Hashem says, I'm going to let go. Right? So you see, this is his Chafetz Chesed. So this is one level of understanding this. But Rabbi Moshe Cordovero, he takes this a step further. And it's so important what he does. He says, please listen carefully. He says, Im ken, b'midah zo ra'ui la'adam le'itnaheg. Right? So we need to emulate Hashem. If Hashem has this characteristic, that he lets go of the worship idols because of what that yad that he sees, the giving hand, he says we need to emulate that in our lives. How? In yeshbot tzad tova shemativ la'acherim. If you see this person that is wronging me, but there is one good thing in this person, that is a giving, you see he is nice to other or she's nice to other people. Or midat tova, not just giving. If you see that this person has some good, something positive that he does, sheminheg keshura, yaspik lo tzad zeh, just dwell on that positive midah, that positive attribute that this person has, and ignore the rest. Yaspik lo tzad zeh, this should suffice. Levatel ka'aso me'alav, like to cool you down, the anger that you have on this person. This person could be your husband, right? Or it could be your spouse, your wife. It doesn't make a difference. Look at if there is one thing positive. You see the Shevet Musar. He talks about. He says people are fly-natured, right? He says Tchunat Zvuv, fly-natured. What does a fly do? If you have a beautiful, clean table, right? There is just one area that is dirty, it's contaminated. The fly ignores all the just goes and dwells on that negative spot. So Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, be the opposite of a fly. Right? If you see somebody that it's all dirty, so to speak, but there is one clean spot, you have to train yourself, and it's not easy. It's not easy. This is godly. This is what Hashem does. But the bad news is we are expected to emulate Hashem. What should you do? Afim ra'ah she'adam oseh lo ra u'machiso, im yesh bo tzad tova shemetiv la'acherim, o midah tova shemidnaheg keshura, yaspik lo tzad zeh. This should be enough for me, right? Levatel ka'aso ma'alav, right? To nullify his anger, that cool down. Look, there is one positive thing. HaKadosh Baruch Hu saw that yad, they're doing everything wrong. But Chafetz Chesed means to identify something positive in that person and to dwell on that instead of dwelling on the negative. And a person should say, it's sufficient for me, this one tova, this one good, this positive aspect, this is enough for me. The kol sheken shelo, and he says, kol sheken shelo yichas beishto. He's talking to men, that men, husbands, should not be angry with their wives. Shelo yichas beishto, kede pershu rabotam zichron livracha. The Gemara says, right, that I think it was Rabbi Chia. Rabbi Chia had a vicious woman as a wife. She would always do the opposite of what he wanted. If he wants to have polochoresh, she would make for him spaghetti and whatever. to the extent that his kids knew that. So if the father would tell his son, please go ask your mom to make polochoresh tonight, so they knew their mom is going to reverse it. So they would go and they would tell her make something else in order that he should by mistake, right, to do what he wanted. So when the father said, oh, Baruch Hashem, she did what I wanted. So the sons told him, but Abba, we reversed it. And they told him, his sons told him, why don't you divorce her? We see what she does to you. Listen to his response to his children. And you see, and what kind of families they created. The father told them the following. He said, it says what? Dayenu shemegadlot et banenu umatzilot min achet. Just the fact that that she raised you were babies. She was pregnant on you and she gave birth, right? And they say he raised he was the one that would wake up in the middle of the night, take care of the babies, etc. He says, look, I dwell on the positive that dayenu shemegadlot et banenu umatzilot min achet, and also she saves me from sin. The fact that I know I have a wife. I have a witch as a wife, but it doesn't make a difference. I have a wife, right, and I don't look around, etc. That's it. This is enough. It's amazing. Not only that, wherever he would travel, he would buy her a gift. Wherever he would travel, he would buy his wife a gift. Right? Kach yomar al kol adam. So Rabbi Moshe Cordovero says, I see a lot of husbands smiling, right? So he says, Kach yomar al kol adam. I mean, it goes also on ladies about their husband, the same thing. If you look hard enough, you'll find something positive, right? There must be. So he says, Kach yomar al kol adam, daili betova plonit sha'asali. Look, this person, maybe he's wronging me right and left. But once he did some favor to me. Once, he just greeted me nicely with a smile, right? Daili betova plonit sha'asali. Or sha'asa im ploni, or I know that he did a favor or something to somebody else. Umidat plonit sheyesh lo. Ve'yeh, so a person is supposed to be like HaKadosh Baruch Hu, ki chafetz chesed. Right? Ve'yeh chafetz chesed. Right? We should look for that positive thing. And really, this is really, it's not just about relationships. This is something that we need to train ourselves. Right? You see, you have people in life that you have people that they are the optimists, and you have the opposite, right? You have people that look always. Right, like Rabbi Sachar always says, some people look, how much of the glass is empty, or how much of the glass is full, right? And you see, there is Arav Lev Shlita, Arav Zev Lev says a beautiful, beautiful thing to have. People that come to my classes, I always talk about it. It's the unbelievable message of Birkat Hamazon, of when we say the blessing after the meals. And we know that in Birkat Hamazon there we have 4 blessings. Right? There are 4 brachot, 4 blessings. Right? The first 3 brachot are biblical. The 4th one is rabbinics. Right? But it must be that the message that the 4th blessing that the Chachamim picked must be equal to the lessons of the first 3 blessings. The first 3 blessings talk about that we have to appreciate Hashem give us food, sustenance. He gave us Eretz Israel, right? We talk about Yerushalayim, etc. These are all essentials in Judaism. But the 4th blessing seems very odd. The 4th blessing of Birkat Hamazon, of benching, it seems not really. What is the 4th blessing? Hatov HaMetiv. What is Hatov HaMetiv? Hatov HaMetiv, it's a very sad blessing. It's talking about after Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, and millions of Jews were killed and exiled. So then there was one city, the city of Beitar, that was stayed intact for a couple of years, right? And then it says that even Beitar, even the city of Beitar fell. Now Baruch Hashem, we have built a new Beitar. It's over 50,000 Jews live there, Baruch Hashem, near Yerushalayim, Beitar Illit. So anyway, so it says that after Beit HaMikdash was destroyed, so Beitar still they were able to withstand the enemy, but then after a couple of years, even Beitar fell, and they came and they killed over there over 400,000 Jews, and not only that, from their bodies, from the corpses, they made like fences. It was a very cruel emperor. But then miraculously, this emperor died. There was a new emperor. Then the Jews were allowed to come and to bury the dead. And there were two miracles that happened. First of all, like these corpses did not decay. And secondly, they were able to give them Jewish burial. So Chachamim came and they added a blessing to Birkat Hamazon. And the blessing is thanking Hashem for what? For these two miracles. Thanking Hashem that these corpses did not decay, and thanking Hashem that they were Zoche, they had Jewish burial. So Rav Lev asks us to look at this. There was a Holocaust here. Millions died. Beit HaMikdash was destroyed. And they went to exile, Jews, so much suffering, etc. What Chachamim tell us to look for? Look at the positive. Look at what is the positive? That the corpses did not decay and they buried them. Who cares? But you see, this is the teaching. This is what Chachamim is teaching us, how we need to focus on positive. We have to, even in the Holocaust, even in such a situation, we have to find. You see, there is something positive there. Dwell on that. Dwell on the positive, not on the negative. Right? Always train yourself not to see how much the cup is empty, but rather how much it is full. And it's a lesson for life. Right? You see, I always tell the story over of Rav. There was I skip his name. My mind skips his name. After the war, Rav Silver, Rav Eliezer Silver, he was the chief rabbi. At one point, America used to have a chief rabbi. Rav Silver, he was a rabbi in Cincinnati, but he was considered like the chief rabbi of America. And he had an unbelievable sense of humor also. Right? Somebody told me, once a yeshiva boy was driving him in one of the freeways, and then the guy was speeding. The yeshiva guy was speeding, so the police stopped them. So the police didn't want to give them a ticket. So this yeshiva guy told him, "Excuse me, officer, I'm driving the chief rabbi of the United States." So Rav Silver sticks out his head and says, Canada," right? Not just United States, also Canada, right? So he was. I think I told you once. He went to Mexico City. Rav Silver, and then the American ambassador in Mexico City had a reception. The chief rabbi of America and Canada, right, is visiting Mexico. So he goes there, and everybody goes to the embassy over there, and everybody's lined up. The ambassador and his wife and everybody else, and he has to shake hands, and he doesn't want to shake ladies' hands. So he comes there, he shakes the ambassador's hand, and then when he comes to, he says, "And for you to be, I have to pick up my hand." So instead of shaking his hand, he was unbelievable. So this Rav Silver, when he after the Second World War, he did wonders during the war and afterwards. So after the war, he took with him a lot of Sidurim, Teilim, etc. And he went to these DP camps. They had these camps that they had all the survivors there, and he was going out and spreading not only Sidurim and Teilim, love, and everybody. He was an unbelievable human being. So he went. So he tell the story that once when he was giving everybody Teilim, there was a certain doctor in this DP camp. When he wanted to give him Teilim, he says, "No, I'm done with Teilim. I don't want to look at Teilim anymore." He says, "Why?" He says, "If I'll tell you the story that witnessed during the Holocaust, you wouldn't want to look at Tehillim either. He says, what happened? He says, yes, he says, when I was in the camp, right? I'm not religious, I was never religious, but you see, there was a guy that he smuggled with him a few pages of Tehillim into the concentration camp, he says. And he says, and this person, like everybody wanted to use his Tehillim, he told them that, he would lend it to them only if they would give him half of their portion of their daily bread. He says, we used to get half a slice of bread, and this low life, he would want to charge them half of that portion for the privilege of using the Tehillim for a few minutes to read the Tehillim. So Rav Silver smiles and says, that's really painful, but tell me, was anybody willing to do that? To give half of their portion of their bread for a few minutes of Tehillim? He says, yes, there was a long line there. So he says, look, why do you look at this one low life? Why don't you look at the hundreds of people that were willing to give in those circumstances half of their bread to have a few minutes? Why do you choose to look at the negative? You should choose to look at the positive. So this is something that we need to train ourselves. It takes training. Hatov v'hametiv. Each time you say Birkat HaMazon, say, wow, what a strong message is there. The same importance that we have about Al Haaretz, Val HaMazon, sustenance that Hashem gives us, etc. The same we have to do with Hatov v'hametiv, even in those darknesses, like in the moments of dark, like in the Holocaust, whatever happens, to look for something positive. Right? Don't look at this low life. Look at all those people that are willing to give, right, the bread just to have the Tehillim for a few minutes. So this is what, right, Rabbi Moshe Cordovero tells us. You want to build relationships, right? And not only like Rabbi Chia with his wife, right? That Dayenu, Dai li betova zo sheyesh li, right? Dayenu shemegadlot et panenu matzuoton mechad. Just even though she's out there but he looks. He chooses to dwell on the positive. But he says, Kach yomar al kol adam, dai li betova plonit, she'asali o right? Look, find something positive there, and try to dwell on that, instead of v'yeh chafetz chesed. Right? Moshe Cordovero says, if one of the characteristics of Hashem is that Hashem is chafetz chesed, that He looks at that hand, like the giving hand, and not they're worshiping idols and everything else. We need to emulate Hashem in that sense. Ve'yeh chafetz chesed. Ve'yeh chafetz chesed. So let me conclude with I saw there is an email that has been going around. Like it's I saw it in one of my Rabbi's website, his website. Maybe if you have heard it, if you have read it, so just excuse me. So this is coming from Howard Schultz. Who is Howard Schultz? He's a chief global strategist for Starbucks company all over, right? He happens to be Jewish from Seattle, Washington, up north. So I just read it to you, right? He says, when I was in Israel, I went to Mea Sha'arim, the ultra-Orthodox area within Yerushalayim, right? He says, I was visiting there, along with a group of businessmen. I had the opportunity to have an audience with Rabbi Nosson Tzvi Finkel. Rabbi Finkel was just here a couple of weeks ago. He was here in town. Right? I've been to his, have had the privilege to be in his office in Yerushalayim also. And he is the Rosh Yeshiva, the head of the yeshiva there. It's a Mir Yeshiva. I had never heard of him and did not know anything about him. We went into his study and waited 10 to 15 minutes for him. Finally, the doors opened. What we did not know was that Rabbi Finkel was severely afflicted with Parkinson's disease. It's very bad. It's really, I've been there, I couldn't, and you can't hear what he says either, but he's like shaking. He sat down at the head of the table, and naturally our inclination was to look away. We did not want to embarrass him. We were all looking away and we heard this big bang on the table. Gentlemen, look at me. And look at me right now. This is Rabbi Finkel. He speaks English. He's American, he's originally from, American, from New York. Now, his speech affliction was worse than his physical shaking. His Parkinson has different ramifications. Like his body shakes violently, and also you could hardly hear what he says. He said, I have only a few minutes for you because I know you're all busy American businessmen. You know, right? Then he asked, who can tell me what the lesson of the Holocaust is? Right? A lot of times, like you put a microphone or something, like to, magnify his voice. He called on one guy who did not, who did not know what to do. It was like being called on in the 5th grade without the answer. And the guy says something benign like, we will never ever forget. He says, this is it. This is the lesson of Holocaust. We will never ever forget. And the rabbi completely dismisses him, right? I felt terrible for the guy until I realized that the rabbi was getting ready to call on someone else, another korban, another. Right? So all of us were sort of under the table, looking away. Please, not me. He did not call me. I was sweating. He called on another guy who had such a fantastic answer. What did he say? He says, we will never ever again be a victim or a bystander. Right? Wow. So this seems like a very intelligent answer, like this is the lesson of Holocaust. The rabbi said, you guys just do not get it. Okay, gentlemen, let me tell you the essence of the human spirit. Right? He wants to tell them, what should we learn from the Holocaust? As you know, he says, during the Holocaust, the people were transported in the worst possible inhumane way by rail cars. They thought they were going to a work camp. We all know they were going to a death camp. After hours and hours in this inhumane corral with no light, no bathrooms, cold, they arrived at the camps. The doors were swung wide open, and they were blinded by the light. We have seen movies about this, right? Men were separated from women, mothers from daughters, fathers from sons. They went off to the bunkers to sleep. As they went into the area to sleep, only one person was given a blanket for every 6. All intentional, right? The person who received the blanket, right, when he went to bed, had to decide, am I going to push the blanket to the 5 other people who did not get one? Or am I going to pull it toward myself to stay warm? That was his dilemma. And Rabbi Finkel says, it was during this defining moment that we learned the power of the human spirit, because we pushed the blanket to 5 others. This is recorded like most that's what they did, right? Instead of putting it on themselves, they would try to push it on the other ones. And with that, he stood up and said, Rabbi Finkel, he stood up and said, take your blanket, right? Take it back to America and push it to 5 other people, right? This is the end of this email. But you see, the point is that, all of us, we have blankets. HaKadosh Baruch will give all of us blankets. Blanket doesn't have to be a physical blanket, right? The idea is, if a person is going to be selfish, or we're going to push the blanket on others. And as we said last week, really, one of the things, one of the main teachings of the Torah about marriage is just it's being it's all about being a giver and not a taker. Right? I always I try to, because I was in yeshiva. I remember I read in Michtav Me'Eliyahu, Rav Dessler, Zichrono Livracha. Always he would say this under a chuppah. He would say, Yakirai, my dear ones, listen to me, right? The minute, right, you think, what can I get out of this? This is the end. That in the Jewish marriage, it's all about, it's giving, not about being takers. This is like you're being transformed from natural babies that we are takers into givers. Fine, so these are some Torah insights about relationships. Be'ezrat Hashem will continue next week.
No recap?
What?
It's a recap.
No, okay. Fine. And again, if you have any comments, and if there are topics about relationships that you would like me, Be'ezrat Hashem, to touch on, you could email me again at rdzargari at torahanweb.com. Yeah, Torah on web, TORAH on web.com, and these classes also go on the web. Now we have, Baruch Hashem, this website.